Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third installment of the CCFLT Early Career Language Teacher Hangout. Joined this evening by Elaine Tendetnik, a CCFLT board member and professor of French at the United States Air Force Academy. Good evening, Elaine.
Good evening. How are you, Senor G?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome to everyone who's watching live. You are able to ask questions of Elaine. It's best if you tweet at me using the hashtag CCFLT, and I will hopefully see it quickly and get your question out there to Elaine. You can also post it as a comment on this Google Plus webpage, and hopefully I will notice that. I'm flying solo for the first time without our good friend Paulino Brenner in Minnesota, who had to work this evening. So hopefully I do a good job managing all your questions, and really excited to learn and share with Elaine. Elaine, I just wanted to start out with, when we were talking a couple days ago, getting ready for this chat, you mentioned that you had, in thinking about early career language teaching, gone back and found a journal that you kept back when you were first teaching.
That is true. And that was actually good advice from my parents to do that, who were phenomenal teachers, both of them. So what I never wanted to do was teach. And lo and behold, that's exactly what I did do. But funny, I am, just for the entertainment value alone, I'm glad I did it, because the first time I watched myself on video teaching, that strange experience of you're in your own class, I had no idea. I flipped my hair. I turned around and talked to the board, not to the students. A million little silly things that I found to critique. But I found some really, overall, as I read this journal, I would really encourage early career teachers, really, this is worthwhile. You feel kind of nerdy, but no one needs to know. It's a secret journal. You never have to reveal that you did this.
But when you talk about these, this kind of journal as the keeper of the secrets, I'm really wondering, just looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, what value does keeping a journal offer, early career teachers and teachers in general?
Well, I, of course, wrote a lot of entries the night before I taught my first class because I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned. I was just way too energetic, and I didn't think they would take me seriously. And so it's this fantastic essay of all of my self-doubts, which I remember so clearly walking into the first class and someone said helpfully, "Are you the teacher?" So that helped. But what it did was kick me into my humorous mode, and I thought, yeah, I am the teacher. I actually know this. I can help you know this. And as I was reading through, I can share some of the more or less embarrassing moments with you, but as I read this, I realized I kept thinking there were secrets, and I didn't know the secrets. And wiser, older teachers knew tricks and knew things I didn't know. And over the years, I finally understood. I wish I had known then. You have everything you need already. It's your sense of humor. It's your ability to react off students, to tell when they're getting it, when they're not, when you need to change tacks. All of us who teach, I think, innately have that. It took me years to discover all of those tools and hone them, but I didn't get them from someone else. I already had them inside. So I wish I could have just gotten rid of all this self-doubt. I don't know how to do things. Sure you do. Jump off that cliff. You absolutely do. You know your material and you want other people to know it, and that's the key.
Yeah, there's always this pressure when we, are teaching, and it never goes away, but especially in those early days when you're doubting yourself, to be perfect, to be this expert in front of your students. And, when you're exploring that self-doubt in the journal, what really just leapt out at you as far as the helpfulness of the journal in just having a safe place to deal with those moments of self-doubt?
Well, I think we've all done this at any stage of teaching. I had what I thought was this fascinating, great, they're going to love this. It was Okay, this was before smartphones, before a lot of technology, dinosaurs roamed the earth, etc. But I had a French song that I thought they would love. And a clothes exercise, they're going to fill in the blanks and they're going to catch on. And within 10 seconds, their body language was, oh, oldies, oh, great. Had not occurred to me that maybe music I thought was great, they wouldn't think was so great. So, of course, I came home and tearfully, it didn't work. They didn't like it. And then within a week, of course, as I heard them singing the song, I was able to, they were writing snippets of it. These crazy kids acted out their own version of a video from it. I thought, oh, I think this did work. Maybe I'm not so bad after all. But had I not written down and seen how ridiculously upset I was ready to, I need to quit teaching, I need to get a new skill set, I stink at this. And as it turns out, you have to have a thick skin. Students aren't always initially going to love what you're doing, but slowly they can reveal to you how much they did get out of it. So that was helpful.
That is such a powerful piece of advice there, that bit of thick skin and you know, in those, especially those early days, to really, you know, control the self-doubt and have confidence in yourself that you're going to make it through this and make a career of it. We're joined again by Elaine Tendetnik. She is a French professor at Air Force Academy, and she's just been sharing with us some of her wisdom that she's gleaned from keeping a journal as an early career teacher. And Elaine, going back to that journal, you know, you said you might have a moment or two you'd be willing to share with us that is, hindsight being 2020, pretty amusing to you.
Well, kind of building on that, what I thought was a failed classroom event, my notes said, they don't like your music, they don't like your movies. Watch their dumb movies, listen to their silly music. But it's so important, and I do it to this day. Crazy sounding, to connect with students, I realized you have to make cultural references they get. When I quoted movies, of course, Madame, we weren't alive yet. It was really key for me to realize, listen to what they're watching, what movies they went to over the weekend, and I started putting those in my journal. These crazy bands I'd never heard of, I looked them up, I listened, that paid dividends, and it still does. Kind of to meet them where they are.
Yeah, it almost sounds like before personalization was this big important buzzword in education, you as an early career teacher really kind of recognized that and seized on that right there in your journal.
Yeah, that wasn't really in methods courses quite yet. No one had coined that phrase. But it's the same idea. There's nothing new under the sun. We are constantly learning more from I am constantly learning more from my students, I think, than I teach them. And they laugh when you tell them that. But I think over time they realize, oh, this is really a two-way street. She is interested. I said, when you find a cool artist that I don't know of, bring it to class. Let me know. Let me see it. We can? Well, of course. Because they're the better judges of what's a funny YouTube snippet, what's not, in their generation.
Yeah, and it just sounds like on two levels. I mean, first, you're building relationships with your students, which is just one of the most important things we can do as teachers. On another level, you're making it about them. That it's not about the music you like. It is, you know, kind of in a way differentiating for student interest, if you will, and personalizing personalizing it for them by making it about their needs and interests and wants.
Exactly. Hadn't thought about it that way, but you put it together.
So another question I wanted to ask you on your journal, you know, when you're able to go back and look at first, second, third year Elaine there in your journal entries, what do you as now a veteran teacher wish you could go back and say, oh, Elaine, this is the answer you were looking for. You know, you addressed the self-doubt. What were some other issues that early career Elaine just wishes she would have had you to support her with?
Well, one was I had students of all ages. undergrad class, I had students as old as late 70s who would say things like, I have kids older than you. Okay, so I'm going to have to earn your respect. Also, classroom management, I kind of naively thought that wouldn't be an issue in the college classroom. And the more I observe other people teach, the more I visit kids at school, I think we all, no matter what level, we deal with very similar issues. There's the class clown. There's the, I don't want to be here, you're not going to teach me anything. Get me interested, and then maybe I'll meet you halfway. Just personality types, which are evident K-16 and beyond. So the first time I had, I would call him a heckler, the kid who hangs back, doesn't participate except to his buddies next on either side. As soon as you're facing the other way, there's a little whisper, there's something, and I thought, how do I deal with this kid? And I used his peers to sort of shine the spotlight on him because he had so much to say. I thought it would be great to let him broadcast. And of course, the kid doesn't want the spotlight on him. He wants to do it in the shadows. And so as I was reading through that, I thought, wow, I was starting to decode that, but it took me years to realize the power of using classroom colleagues, saying, oh, that's right, you know a lot about this. Let's hear it. Go ahead, tell us this joke in French. Moi? Mm-hmm. Go ahead, monsieur. And balancing early on, I think the longer I taught, the more quickly I realized, set the tone, see those personality types early on, use some, they're not humiliation techniques, they're just giving the kid more attention than he really wants. And it's with humor, it's very effective, and so many times I would read that terrible student, that difficult student would later say, you know, I didn't like you at first, but this is my favorite class now, and I do my French first, and I kind of was a jerk, but it was a long process. It didn't happen overnight, but I realized there are ways around that, and I think we all know how to do that. But again, it took me several years of journaling. It wasn't as quick a process as I would have liked.
Yeah, recognizing that sort of process and longitudinal growth is really tough to do. We want it right here, right now. Why is this taking me so long? And it's okay to not be awesome right out of the gate sometimes, or that, you know, instead of having amazing lessons and units every single day, that early on, before you have the toolkit, before you have some awesome lessons in the can, that you're able to plan ahead to have one really great one and then build from there.
Sure.
You know, one thing that you touched on, Elaine, it was, you know, watching some of the more experienced colleagues down the hall and wondering, well, what's their secret? And then you just now mentioned about observing others. And I'm wondering, you know, if there's any insight you can talk about just taking the time to save the grading for later, save the lesson plan for later, and just get in other people's classrooms.
That was a big one. I was terrified to ask somebody if I could come to their class. Why? Because I thought they would find it a threat, a challenge. That is, if it's not older, but let's say gently used me could tell the younger me. When there's someone you admire, a language you're curious about, someone you don't know well, ask them, would you mind? I hear great things about your class. Would you mind? Someday it's convenient for you. And I've found that people either say, no, and you get very elaborate excuses of why not, and that means probably not the best idea. Other people say, sure, anytime. You don't need to let me know ahead of time. Or I'm giving a quiz tomorrow, but come Tuesday. I have learned so much, and I would encourage people, don't wait don't hesitate. It's a compliment. When someone wants to see you teach, absolutely. My classroom is open anytime to anyone. And it actually makes you teach, I think, a little bit better when you know there's a visitor in the class. It changes the energy. There's a guest. Who's that? What's that person doing here? And especially when the guest will participate in the conversation prompt or the games, or trying to pronounce things correctly for Siri, that kind of thing. But I really, after I would observe people, I have to say quite honestly, I learned as much from bad teaching that I saw as I did from good. Some of those lessons were the ones I highlighted in the journal. Here's how not to handle a boisterous student. Slam down your books. I saw a professor slam the door, go outside, and scream in the hallway, and I thought, note to self, not effective. Don't do this. It didn't work. The classroom was pandemonium afterwards.
Yeah, that is such powerful advice that, we're not only looking when we observe our colleagues to learn from the amazingness they bring to the table, but also their swings and misses can be really informative to us. I'm wondering, it can be almost intimidating to even ask a colleague. And even though that seems like it should be really easy, I mean, can you just give a script to an early career teacher of how easy it is? What would a teacher need to say to you to get into your classroom and watch?
Well, like I said, at this point, anybody, anytime is welcome, but a sincere compliment seems to work when people say, I've heard about this crazy thing you do for Mardi Gras, or I hear your students singing. You're doing something. There's some cool thing I heard about what you do for Day of the Dead, or who can resist that? Of course, some seasoned teacher of any age is going to say, well, yes, I am fascinating. You're right. Please come observe me. But again, if it's sincere, great. And if someone doesn't feel comfortable, you'll know. You'll know right away. But that is, between that and actually auditing someone else's class, those have been some of the two most ongoingly valuable lessons I've gotten from watching other people teach. And like you say, it's not always the great stuff. Fantastic idea. And then you as an observer realize, okay, I think it's time to go on to the next. They're losing their steam. They're not. Maybe it's time to say, okay, we're going to stop on prompt number 4, not go all the way to 10. It's time to change gears. It's so much easier to feel in someone else's classroom. Okay, next thing. And the trick is to internalize that and say, oh, I do this too.
Right, that we're not there so much as an observer/evaluator. We're there as an observer/student in order to almost get a lens and a mirror into our own teaching in just a safer space.
Exactly. And it does, I think it's important to remember what it feels like. Sometimes we get a little disconnected. When I've been in a class and I know they're going to ask me questions, I think, oh, no, don't ask me, I don't know this one. They feel that a lot. It's good to keep in touch with, okay, 3 people down, I'm going to read 3 sentences down. No wonder my students disconnect. They're looking at what they're going to read, not listening to what their neighbor's reading. So I think for me it's very instructive to now and then remember to be a student, be on the other side of the desk, know that sweaty palms, clutchy stomach, oh, I don't want people to know that I really don't know how to conjugate this verb, but I really don't.
Yeah, I know I live in constant fear of the day administrator or a colleague is observing me teach and a student asks me, como se dice belt buckle? And I have no idea in the entire language how to say it. Again, if you're watching us live, you are in the CCFLT Early Career Language Teacher Hangout. We are all about supporting early career language teachers with anything we can do to just help you succeed. We are here for you. This is a service of CCFLT, the Colorado Congress of Foreign Language Teachers. If you have a question for Elaine, please go ahead and tweet us using the hashtag CCFLT, and I will see your question. get it live on the air to Elaine. We're again joined by Elaine Tendetnik, French teacher at the United States Air Force Academy. Elaine, the next thing I wanted to move on to is this idea of constantly assessing for comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you mentioned that's just one of the things you really pride yourself on, and what can you tell teachers about that?
Well, it initially drives the students crazy, but they see it as inevitable and they eventually buy in, because what I'm doing is I'm always evaluating their body language, their posture. I think all of us realize when someone's starting to get it, they have the different stages of the scowl, the oh, looking to neighbors to verify, and the aha moment. So I'm looking for all of those steps along the way, and with so many different people, so many different learning styles, you know, you have those popcorn moments all over the classroom. And lately, to hone pronunciation, I've been doing a lot of dictations, short, sweet, where the students write exactly what I'm saying, and then they can either correct their own or someone else's. And that instant gratification of, oh, I mixed up those two words. I get why I messed this up. Oh, this is right. And to do two of those back to back, they are so on task, so excited about, do another one, I can do better.
You know, something that I wanted to just rewind on there, Elaine, is, you know, when you're talking about using their body language as a key there, and their confused looks or aha looks, you know, in this day and age of data and assessment, it almost sounds like you're talking about using these sort of physical cues as a form of formative assessment.
All the time. Yep, it's true. And to take it one step further, my goal is what percentage, I want to give them feedback right away, what percentage of what you just said would be understood by a native speaker? Obviously, if I respond in kind and you say something and I say something or your neighbor says something, we know it's working. So on oral assessments, sometimes we will do, they last a minute apiece. I'm at the front, one or two students come up. We have a question and answer, quick conversation, and then they get a number right away. And I'm taking down, repeating back to them words they pronounced better or worse to see if they can tune their ear. And my new favorite thing is with smartphones and Siri, guess what you can't fool? The native ear of Siri. And so when someone's pronouncing something perfectly, I usually do a point, say that to your phone, do it. And when they ask the question correctly, of course, Siri understands, responds in kind. My students enjoy telling Siri jokes, asking Siri, would you like to marry me? And they go at the beginning from, oh, it didn't understand me, to, oh, wait, I didn't say it right. I have to say it correctly so that Siri understands me.
That's an amazing idea. I think anybody watching this right now is thinking, why didn't I think about this and start doing this in my class years ago, or whenever? I guess it hasn't been years that Siri's been out, but I mean, that's just such a great idea, because I know when I'm texting friends who are native speakers, I just dictate to Siri in Spanish, and she gets it. It didn't occur to me to have my students do that, and that if Siri understands, we've just got a point on you know, formative assessment in presentational and maybe even interpersonal communication modes.
Exactly. So true.
That is just a brilliant strategy, and that we'll have to be sharing far and wide with other language teachers to have free. Students what did you call it again? Tell it to Siri?
Tell it to Siri. And then I like to have someone at the end of class, one or two, have the most ridiculous question, why did the chicken cross the road? Or would you like to have a drink with me? Remember, these are older students. You'd have to tone it down for K-12, I suppose. I had a student break up with Siri. Don't call me. It's finished between us. I don't want to talk to you anymore. So that the rest of the class, we feature 2 or 3 that think they're good enough that everyone should hear them and see Siri's response. So it's a blast. I really encourage it.
Oh, that is great. And do you recommend any setup for that? Do you plug the phone into speakers, or the room just stays quiet enough that they can put the phone on speaker and everything's set?
Usually, but I always bring the dongle so I can we have speakers that are live, and so I can show up on screen, my phone, of course, my students say, haha, we know your password. And then I can voice text and they can see Siri typing, so of course they all want to try it. The key is not letting them all do it at once. You have to do it in order, have some numbered group system, but they are elbowing each other out of the way. No, me next, me next.
Even in college, that is fantastic. I love that. You know, one last thing I wanted to touch on with you, Elaine, is the idea of just culture. And, you know, we get a lot of stuff in our conferences and on the blogs with Spanish language and culture. Anything specific to French language and culture or some of our other less commonly taught languages that you would have to offer teachers who might be watching this?
My favorite thing is Mardi Gras, because people are always fascinated by it but don't know the symbolism of the colors. I decorate the classroom, get the cadets involved if they're willing, pick a king or a queen. Food is a big way for me to entwine culture into the classroom. Hands-on things where cadets can make, or students can. You can make crepe ahead of time and they can fill them. They can decode a recipe, put it in the right order. They can watch part of a video of someone doing a recipe, predict what comes next, put ingredients in the right order, that kind of thing. Food and festival, you can do so many things on such a tiny budget that I would really encourage people to do something as simple as a silly 1 or 2 silly hats. Or it doesn't take expensive props. I always thought, oh, over the years I'll accumulate all these fancy props. Sometimes the simpler, the better.
And you know, you touched earlier on, you know, just asking your students to gauge their interest. I'm wondering, on the culture, do you have a lot of success with students bringing in the culture?
That's a good challenge, to have them bring us something. I will say, show us something that we probably don't know about French culture. And they absolutely put their technology to work and come in with surprising things, little-known trivia facts, show a parade, and say, okay, what event was this? We don't know. And that does really seem to work well. Lately, it's mostly been things on YouTube, of course. But if we can get them to authentic language websites, they're learning all kinds of stuff and they're having so much fun they don't know they're learning. So,
you know, something I just love about that, Elaine, is you're taking something that for a lot of us in our classrooms would be a task, and you're kind of switching it over to a challenge, which I think that maybe it sounds like your students internalize differently, and maybe it plays on some of the competitive nature of the cadets at the United States Air Force Academy, but you issued a cultural challenge and your students respond.
You're exactly right. Guilty as charged.
Well, Elaine, I definitely want to thank you so much for your time. Our 30 minutes are just about up. Any parting words for early career language teachers?
I am so envious of early career teachers. As we teach, we get older and the students stay the same age. The younger teachers, you're closer in age, you're already way cooler. Use that. Use your energy. Use your enthusiasm and get into their music and their movies. That would be my best advice. But man, you have what the rest of us wish we had, so exploit your youth.
And keep a journal.
Yes, and keep a journal. Best advice I ever got. It's true.
Well, again, we've been joined by Elaine Tendetnik, French professor at the United States Air Force Academy. Thank you so much to those of you who joined us live and to those of you who watched us on YouTube. We appreciate it, and we do this the second Monday of every month at 7:30 Mountain Time. It is called the CCFLT Early Career Language Teacher Hangout, and we are all about supporting early career language teachers any way we can. You can always shoot us questions on Twitter as well as on the Google event pages. Thank you so much for your time, and Elaine, thank you once again for joining us.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Noah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.